This is it. Last video submission from the home front. Leaving tomorrow morning. I don't know how many days into this, but now by the time you get to see this one, who knows? I'll definitely be deep into it. It's going to be -10 and already snowing in 3 days up there. Good for hunting, not so good for being warm, but it's going to be good. But anyway, I'm going to get right into some more of these shares. I've had I think every human being's quality, so don't get me wrong when I say I've got some real quality shares coming up, and it's not entertainment value, it's the people who are sharing what they're sharing with me. It seems more and more people are going against what they call an oath they took of secrecy. Now they've been disenchanted with what they previously were led to believe, I guess. But anyways, I won't even get into that. But I've got some very substantial shares coming, all right? And I'll have to be loading those up at a later date. But in the meantime, I got a whole pile more here that I don't know anything about. And you're gonna hear them the first time I do right here, like with this one. My experience with Bigfoot. What I thought to be my first experience was actually my third experience. It wasn't until 2014 when I unplugged my cable TV to start streaming that I came across Bigfoot channels. Is at this time I began to connect my strange experiences to actual Bigfoot experiences. I'll start my third experience now. I was 23 in '89 when I decided to move back to Pennsylvania from Florida. Back then I was a free-spirited female going through my rebirth in the Christian religion. I had no fear and I had true faith in God for my protection. I moved in with my brother and his fiancée in an old log cabin deep in the mountains in Lycoming County, Pennsylvania. Lycoming? Lycoming. My room was the attic in the cabin. I liked it because it was warm, and at night I could open the window that overlooked the porch for a cool breeze. There was a small trout stream that ran beside the cabin. It was perfect. I decided one day I was going to go out and explore the woods, and I did by myself. Found all kinds of blackberry bushes that were loaded with berries. I decided to go to the back of the house and go out early in the morning to pick berries. I told my brother the next day that I wanted to go pick berries. He offered me his .357 Magnum for protection. He said berry bushes attract bears and I needed something for protection. I told him no thanks, that God would protect me. I took a big paper grocery bag with me to pick berries and flowers. I looked at the sky and it started looking a little dark. The wind was picking up, but I was determined to go pick berries. I started from the back of the cabin, headed up through the waist-high weeds and brush. I prayed to God for a bright sunny day and protection, even though I could see dark clouds with lightning bolts starting to come out. I began finding beautiful wild flowers. I was picking those and blackberries like it was going out of style. I hit the mugload of blackberries. I'd probably walked a couple miles from the back of the cabin through the woods and fields. I crossed over a power line area and felt like someone or something was watching me. I looked all around and seen 2 white-tailed does in the grass under the power lines and thought, oh, it was them watching me. So I continued to cross, found another big blackberry bush and began picking again. I did mention I had a Walkman on listening to Rod Stewart at the time, pretty loud, when all of a sudden I heard a growl that vibrates my chest. I turned the Walkman off, took my headset off and listened. I thought, oh shit, I got a black bear, deer don't growl. I got a little scared and I prayed to God, please protect me and look after me. I looked all around and seen nothing. I walked around to the other side of the huge blackberry bush and seen saliva hanging about 3 foot up on the leaves. I took a stick and checked it. It was fresh. That was my growl, but I seen nothing looking out of the ordinary. So I continued with caution, pushing through the woods. I had plenty of berries by this time and wildflowers too. I came across this old cobblestone cabin that was in ruins. I sat down to smoke a cigarette, take a break. I looked up at the sky, it cleared, it was beautiful and sunny. I thought, what a beautiful day. Then I felt this tingling on my arm, almost like a ghost was watching me. I actually felt really good. I heard in my mind, those are bad for you. I said, yes, I know, I need to quit. Next thing you know, something is asking me what I'm doing there in my mind. I said, I come out to pick berries and flowers. Then it asked me where I'm from. I told it I was from Florida, here visiting my brother, and etc. I could easily receive and send my answers with no problem. I thought at first it could have been an old Civil War ghost. I told her I needed to head back home now, and I left. We mind-spoke for about an hour there at the old ruined cabin. On my way back, I got very hot and sweaty. I took my jacket off, tied it around my waist. I heard something say to take my clothes off. In my mind, I said, no, I'll get all scratched up. It said, because you don't have hair. I said, yes, animals have hair to protect themselves. I began to get disoriented. I was hot, dizzy, like lightheaded. Then I thought, oh no, I'm lost. My dad was a hunter. He always told me if I got lost, listen for water and find it. Follow the stream, you'll find yourself. I did, thank God, started following the stream. I knew the cabin was right beside the stream. I must have followed for a couple of miles. I was way out in those woods. I still felt dizzy-headed and a little nauseated, and finally I seen the cabin. This whole time I felt something or someone with me. When I seen the cabin, I began to walk very fast towards it. Finally, I was there, made it back. I began to feel like all my disorientation went away as soon as I walked in the cabin door. My brother's fiance says, where the hell have you been? We're beginning to get worried about you. We had a really bad storm here with lightning half the day. I told her where I was. It was beautiful and sunny. I went straight to get cleaned up. Then I went upstairs, put on my PJs, and it was getting dark by this time. I opened the window, sat on the roof, and smoked a cigarette. I then went to sit down and brush my hair out at the vanity. I heard this huge thud, like someone threw a brick on the roof by my bedroom window. I ran to see what caused the noise. Looking out that attic window, I seen a red, hairy something. It was no more than 4 foot from me. Its back was turned so I could only see its back. I could see through the hair on its arms. It was white-looking skin underneath. I didn't notice a cone-shaped head. I couldn't really see a neck from the back, but its hair was like a thick lion's mane from around the shoulders going into like a V. I'd say it was about 6 or 7 foot tall. It was slouched over, facing away from me. It had hair on the backs of its hands. Didn't see palms. I thought, demon. What the hell is this thing? I took both hands to rub my eyes because I couldn't believe what I was seeing. When I removed my hands, it was gone. Disappeared. So I sat in the window still, just smoking another cigarette. That really shook me up. Next thing you know, I hear 2 people outside talking. I strained my eyes. I strained my ears to hear verbal speech. It sounded like, what was she doing way out there in the woods? I heard the other voice say, my sister visited. She was picking berries and flowers. She wasn't doing anything wrong. The other voice said, why do you let her come back? The other voice said, I wanted her to know where she was going. The other voice said, now you know. I thought it was my brother talking to a visitor that had come to the house. I didn't hear a car pull up though. It's like a 5-mile dirt road on a rural country road. Royal? It's probably rural country road. I began to get suspicious then and yelled, hey Ron, who are you talking to? I said it several times and I began to hear this kind of language I couldn't understand. I've heard people say it sounds like samurai chatter. I'm going to say Cherokee sounding language kind of. Then I started yelling at the top of my voice, Ron, Ron! He was downstairs. I was sitting on the windowsill. He exited the house. He yells, what the hell's going on? I then knew it hadn't been my brother talking to someone. So I say something just had hit the roof of the house. Sounded like a brick. It was really loud. But this time it was dark outside. He runs in and gets a flashlight. Shines it up at me sitting on the windowsill, looks all around and sees nothing. He goes, I don't see anything. I say, are you sure? He says, he doesn't see anything again, sounding a little pissed off from me yelling like that. He comes back in the cabin downstairs. Next thing, his hat comes through the window. I'm petting the cat laying on my bed. Ron comes up and yells at me for having the cat in the house. I told him it came in by itself. He made me put the cat back outside on the roof, close the window, so nothing like that big red hairy thing can squeeze through, but I can still have a breeze. I began to hear mind speak in my head, asking me if my brother has a gun. I told it he had many, big enough to blow a hole in you the size of a bowling ball. He questioned the word bowling ball, so I used my hands to show the size. I felt like something or someone was in that room with me. I then turned the light out and went to bed. I woke up at 4:30 a.m. in the morning with something literally drumming the end of my bed. I opened my eyes and I was afraid at first, then pissed for getting woke up. I yelled at whatever was doing it. You could not see anyone or anything. Then it did some more. I told it to stop it. It would wake everybody up in the house. Put my finger to my mouth. It was like a gesture to be quiet. I think I made it mad. I kind of felt it was mad, so I apologized to whatever it was and asked it to please not hurt me. I then said a prayer for protection. That was my experience with Bigfoot. What a doozy. I was reluctant to write your channel and say anything. It seems so crazy, but I swear to you this happened. I've heard Indians say if they bond with you, you will always communicate with them. I'm in Texas now, went back to PA in 2016, and I had some neck surgery. I had some extra time off, so I decided to go see my brother. He has his own place now, about 7 miles from that third encounter. I was there by myself the second day, and I felt this overwhelming feeling of fear. I can't describe how I was shaking inside. I heard a loud thud outside on the porch, and right away it was my Bigfoot friend. I turned all the inside lights out but a few, and turned the porch lights on. My brother arrived 40 minutes later. The overwhelming fear I had felt went away right away. I think it heard me thinking how bad my neck hurt, and I prayed for healing of my neck and maybe thought someone was hurting it. Later that night I went to bed on the pull-out sofa sleeper. As soon as I turned the lights out and go to bed, 5 minutes later the whole metal frame of the bed bends down in the end, and I slide out. I pull the mattress off and sleep by the pellet stove on the floor. I began to hear mind speak, asking me about my neck. Well, I know this is a long one, but there are 2 encounters I've had with one Bigfoot. I believe they are interdimensional beings, have a language, can cloak somehow, where they can be right in front of you and you can't see them. I believe they change their frequency somehow to do this. There you have it, Steve. My name isn't needed. Just call me Swede. After watching some of David Collider's 411 encounters, I'm lucky I made it out of the woods in '89. Maybe you are, maybe you aren't, Swede. I don't know, man. I don't know. That's quite the story. You know as well as I do, there's going to be a pile of people rolling their eyes and shaking their head at that one, right? That we weren't there. You know, I'm definitely not the person to tell you, tell the world it didn't happen, what happened to you. And the thing is, how many frickin' people have written in with basically the exact same experience? How many? Not related and all over the planet. It's a bizarre topic. Tell you what, man, is it raining out there. Peeing. Horses are out there. I let them run around the yard to get the lawn down, man. They are getting rained on. Thanks for that share. Go share whatever you got. Keep it coming, all right? Share what you have, especially if you feel it's going to help us. All right, here we go. Another experience, October 2021. Wow. I recently went to PA to visit my brother. He lives deep in the Allegheny Mountains. I was hoping I'd see the Sasquatch I've had a couple experiences with. I'll say I did learn from your channel to tell it to please not make me afraid. I wanted to say hello again and make sure he was doing well. As soon as I arrived the next day, I was walking around outside and felt his presence. I took a few pictures. Later in the day, 2 deer came to the backyard. I snapped 2 more pictures through the window blinds while inside. Later, I looked at the pictures. The first one clearly showed a face in the woods crouched low. The second, with the deer, I put it on live view and could see a cloaked Bigfoot running very fast, then hiding behind a tree. You wonder how I could see the cloaked one? Well, it showed a blurry dark spot running, then hiding behind the tree. I was standing on the step later in the week outside trying to look at the stars. When I went to go in, I felt something, so I turned around, and during this time, someone or something bum rushed me. I turned and could for an instant make out its outline. It was 4 feet from me. It was an 8-foot or so solid black Bigfoot. It ran down the side of the house and jumped over my brother's log cutter. When it did this, its foot must have got caught under the tarp covering the woodcutter and ripped the tarp off. I know the night it was making an owl sound, but I knew it wasn't an owl because it had a rhythm like bump, 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 pause, bump, bump, like I used when knocking on someone's door. I felt many Bigfoots around me, 2 small ones, and the older man dad, 2 big black ones. I believe he brought his family for me to meet. One night I was making coffee in the kitchen, felt something watching me, looked out to see a Bigfoot looking in the window. I believe it was a female. It had deep sunk dark eyes and gray skin. I will comment, its nose was not flat either like an Indian. Instead, when I've had several experiences with this family, They never have an odor whatsoever. The next day I went out to find the window was a good 8.5 feet off the ground. That night I got bum rushed. I believe it was a juvenile messing around. Also, I picked 2 orbs up taking pictures at night when I felt a presence. I wasn't going to write to you again, but I did. Never had my stories read by you yet. I'm looking forward to my next visit. I've had encounters all my life with them. My name is Leslie. I really don't care if I use my name or not. All right, there we go again. And another. It sounds like some incredible experiences, Leslie. And you want to share some pictures. I mean, if you got some real good, clear pictures, the audience is probably all going to be going, where's the pictures? Where's the pictures, right? Me, not so much. But you know what the audience is like. They want to see those pictures. So if you feel compelled to, share with the people. If not, that's okay too. But if you have information you feel would help the people, please share it here, okay? And thanks for that share and be safe out there. Okay, here we go now. Again, I haven't a clue what's coming. They're all in order as how I received them, saved them to my notes here. Title that wanted me to leave. Hello, Steve, thank you for what you're doing. Very few people would take the risk and go against the grain from what the powers that be want us all to think and believe. I'm 52 years old and I live in western Oklahoma. I've been hunting and in the woods since I was a kid. I've never seen anything that resembles a Sasquatch, but I'm almost certain I've been within 50 yards of one on 2 different occasions. The first time is not very intense, which is a good thing. I work in the oil and gas industry, and 75% of the time I'm working by myself in remote areas, or as we say in the boonies. I was calibrating a gas meter on a well location and had the feeling of someone in the area watching me. There was only one way in and one way out of location, so I'd have seen someone drive up the lease road to where I was at. I was looking around for a while, I shrugged it off and went back to what I was doing when I got a whiff of an overwhelming terrible smell. I cannot describe it because it was a combo of several rank smells all in one, and it was odd how I could smell it. And then all of a sudden, a few seconds later, it was gone. I immediately got in my truck to sit there a while, wondering if that really just happened. I've researched many things over the years, so I had a good idea of what it might have been, but I couldn't make myself believe that there was one that close to me, and I never heard or seen anything at all. After a few minutes, I got out and finished my job very quickly, then left there scratching my head and wishing I could confirm what I was thinking. The second encounter was very different, changed my life and the way I do things and what time of day I do them. Late one night I got called out to work and had to check on a well that is right beside the highway as soon as you cross the Cimarron River Bridge. Right before the entrance to the well location there was a deer on the road that had been hit by a car and had not been laying there long. It was literally less than 30 yards from where I turned off the highway. I had to go about 50 yards, then stopped to open the gate. Then drove to the other side of the location, was there for probably 20 minutes with my truck aimed towards the highway and the gate I came through. I kept noticing a set of eyes about halfway up in the trees just on the other side of the road where the gate was at. The eyes were glowing from my headlights and they would disappear and I assumed it was a raccoon up in the tree or some other critter. I didn't think much about it. When I was leaving, I looked for the eyes again, but didn't see anything, so I assumed the critter ran off as I approached the gate to leave the location. After going through the gate, I got out of my truck to shut and lock it, and right as I was putting the lock on, I received a text message from my boss asking me if I'd fixed a problem. So I was standing there by the gate typing out a reply to the message, and I must have taken too long since I typed slow. To set the scene, as it was that night. It was very quiet out and no traffic on the highway like during the day. Just a nice quiet night in the country where frogs and crickets are all you hear. Then all of a sudden a loud noise I'd never heard before came from the trees where I'd seen the eyes, which was only 25 to 30 yards away from the gate I was standing by. I not only heard it, but actually felt it in my entire body, and it's hard to find the words to describe it. But it sounded like a pissed off silverback gorilla. I immediately ran to the door of my truck and jumped in and took off as fast as I could. As I was pulling onto the highway, I thought what a big wuss I was for running like I did and hauling ass to get out of there. But it was just a reaction, because I don't really remember getting the gate to inside my truck. When I pulled onto the highway, I was trying to gather my thoughts as to what the hell just happened, and I noticed the dead deer that was in the road earlier was now gone. But there were no drag marks of blood where a coyote or bobcat might have drug it off the road. There's only the bloody spot where it had been laying, and it somehow just vanished. That's when I realized why I was growled at or screamed at. Something was tired of me standing there because it had picked up the deer and wanted to get away from the road, but I was in the way. It knew exactly how to get me to leave, and that's what I did. The funny part about this is the name of the well location I was at is called the Judy, but the next location directly behind it, about a quarter of a mile, is called Bigfoot. What a coincidence. I'll never forget that sound and the chills it gave me. I hope I never hear it again. Thanks for all you do. Brad G. from Oklahoma. Oklahoma. It's non-stop, isn't it? Hey, Brad? Oklahoma. Should be called, yeah, who knows what it should be called. But Oklahoma is overloaded with experiences. It's crazy. Thanks for that share, man. Be safe out there. I'll be going around some of those dead-end road leases myself here in the next coming week, where there's a lot of action going on with these things, but I'm not looking for it. What do we got here? We got one called Hairy Man Bristol Bay. Here we go. I don't know if it can rain much harder than this, so I'm sure you can hear it. It probably sounds like distortion noise, but it is actually the ocean falling on the ground in my front yard. My name is Jesse Thompson, live in Duvall, Washington, born and raised in Maui, got for several seasons on the Nishigak, Togiak, Ungulakith, Oh, okay. My first experience was at King Camp on the Nishigak. We had just set up camp and it was the first night we fired up the big generator, 6 of us. 5 stayed up drinking until mildly. 5 of us stayed up drinking mildly until 3 a.m. At 2:30 a.m., 2 MOSSE walked right into camp and stood next to us. 2 moose, I'm guessing, walked right into camp and stood next to us, right next to the fire for 5 minutes. Now, that's bizarre. They just stood there and looked scared. It was weird. So we got to bed, and at 4 a.m., the only person who hasn't drank at all, I'm the only person who hasn't drank at all yet, also stayed up with us. Oh no, sorry. At 4 a.m., the only person who hasn't drank at all yet also stayed up with us, woke me up with eyes as big as dinner plates, and he couldn't talk. He was just saying, "Look, look, look. I can't look, look. What is this? You gotta just look," and mumbling. So I went and looked, and there were tracks from a really big human-looking foot. I wear a size 13 EE, and it was 2 times the length, 2 times the width. I have pics, but it was old school flip phone days, and they aren't decent. The ones that sold me were where it went up the muddy bank. You could see where it had lost traction 2 times. And the toes curled, and mud was raised in between the toes as it slid. No possible way to fake this. Okay, this sounded familiar. And if I did read it in the past, well, here it is again. Our camp is 100 yards below the Iowithla River on the Nushagak, for reference. First guest showed up at camp, and I noticed the beaver lodge across from camp was absolutely demolished. It was on a point going in the slough. It got about 1 foot deep, and as I trimmed up my kicker before I hit bottom, I saw 3 sets of huge footprints. And as I saw them, the boat hit and mucked everything up. I could not see or show anyone else, but I know what I saw. The beaver lodge was a monster, the size of a VW bug, and it was demolished. I told an old timer about this in Dillingham. He said hairy men like the young beavers. He also said one time he heard 2 hairy men talking about how they was going to divide him up, who was getting his liver and such. He said he woke up and said, "Don't eat me, I'm of you," and they walked away. I asked how he knew what they were saying. He said they speak Uppic. Some of us don't die, we just turn into hairy men. And Dillingham, Equok village area has tons of sightings. I always believed this summer just set it in stone. My last summer at Bristol at the lodge, Just say Alagnakek, maybe. If you share it, that is. I was doing an evening fish with one guest after dinner. We're gonna go fish Sunset Creek. It was July, lots of light, left good tipper, and I got to fish, so I was happy to take him. I'll send a map and some pics for reference next email with my Bigfoot prints pics. So we're cruising across the lake in the John boat, and over at Lily Creek I see a figure standing on the creek mouth. I thought, strange, no boat. There's nobody around. Hadn't seen any boats go by the lodge. Maybe he's in trouble. So I veer that way, about 1,000 yards away at this point, which hindsight showed me what I really saw amongst other clues. So as I get to about 500 yards, the figure is hunched over looking in the water, like a hairy man watching fish. Again, hindsight. I'm thinking, no boat, no fishing pole. I can see between this figure's legs. It is standing upright. It has to be a man. Maybe he's setting a net. 300 yards. Still no boat, no fishing pole, no net, boys. 100 yards. I shout, "Are you okay?" Power down. The figure doesn't look up, just walks up the creek mouth and up the bank. At that point, I knew it all clicked. My guest hadn't said a word the entire time. I got back on step and headed towards our fishing destination with goosebumps. Head spinning, no words spoken between us. I'm figuring maybe my guest was asleep or just half wasted so he didn't even notice, and I'm not saying anything. It's for about 15 minutes to sunshine. Complete silence. I land the boat, throw the anchor, get on shore, and start rigging our rods. This MFer stands up and says, almost yells, but in a funny, nice way, and says, "Hey, are we seriously not going to talk about the Bigfoot we just saw?" I looked up and smiled and said, "You did see that." He said, "How could I miss it? What the F?" After much discussion and telling him my previous stories, I told him, what should we do? We have no proof. Everyone will think we're crazy, or they would try and go find him. And tell me that wasn't the coolest thing you have ever seen? He agreed. We said nothing. We did go back and reenact what we saw, and when I stood approximately where the hairy man was, the creek was up to my chest, and I'm 5'11", and I could see in between his legs when he was fishing. Also, when we got to the bank, no tracks. He was able to make over a 6-foot stride into the bush and leave zero evidence. Goosebumps just thinking about it again. My first story I ever heard you tell was about grizz and reloads from a friend and how you had the same bullet all season. You're an amazing storyteller, and stories are important. I feel a lot of today's problems could be solved if everyone knew their story, as in where they came from, who their ancestors are, and had a story their own life. We're very disconnected from Mother Nature as a whole on a societal level. In other news, if you haven't heard, my friend definitely got on board with the QAnon. Q Alerts is a great site. It's worldwide. The Great Awakening, WWG1WGA, where we go, one, we all go. As much as you know about government censorship, I'm sure you may already know. Stay safe, keep the stories coming. This is an amazing content. Jesse Thompson. Jesse, appreciate it, man. It's funny, when you were mentioning having the goosebumps, and having them right now, I get goosebumps every time I recall the first time I seen one of the damn things. And when I tell people every time, I go, look, check it out, and both my arms are hair standing on end, goosebumps. There's no way out of it. Quite an experience, pretty cool. You got to see with the client. I definitely spoke of the Sasquatch with basically every client I got it, but we'd never seen one. Possibly heard, definitely seen the sign of them for sure. Years ago, way up north, while guiding. I'm just talking about while guiding. But anyway, that's all she wrote for me. Next step, eat one of our home-raised chickens for the last meal here at home, everyone. And then come back out into here, the bat cave, load the truck, load all my gear, camera gear, weapons, survival gear, and I'm out of here. So, there. Keep this ball rolling no matter what, alright? Everybody, keep the ball rolling, never fear anyone or anything. Support each other. Create safe places for everyone. And never stop sharing this knowledge, ever. Got it? Good luck out there.